Hey, hey! Well, as you can see, I didn't put no towels up on my windows behind me. But the reason I'm here today is I belong to a couple sites on Facebook that has to do with narcissistic abuse and survival. And so today I just want to kind of be real with you and talk about how my life and how I got over my narc. I don't even know that I seen it coming. Just saying. I'm going to give you a little past history about me and my narc. We met 35 years, 40 years ago, something crazy like that. And at the time, I only dated women. Just saying. Anyhow, during that time, me and my mother and my sister, our birthdays were like really close. And we would go out once a year on our birthdays and celebrate. Well, this particular night I had my girlfriend in tow. She refused to stay home because she knew my mother and my sister could be quite the bad influence on me. But anyhow, I met a man that night on stage, and I found out he was married. I knew it. He knew I was with this female, and we still struck a friendship. Well, within 2 years, I had a child by him. Now, I loved the man dearly, dearly. I was so in love with him that I left my girlfriend. I left lesbian lifestyle, and I never went back. But when I was 9 months pregnant, he came to me, and it wasn't the first time, but he came to me and asked me to marry him, and I told him, I can't marry you, you're married. How about that? And so I sent him home to his wife and his 2 young sons. Fast forward to 2009, my son, our son, who was probably, 24 maybe at the time, he sent me a picture of a gentleman, and he said, "Mama, do you know who that is?" I said, I don't know who the hell that is. I said, "Why?" And he goes, "No, you know him." So after going back and forth a few times, and if you knew my son, he has a really warped sense of humor, I could only imagine what he was going to put. Just a minute, my dog wants up here. This is Fifi. I didn't know what my son was, up to. He was usually up to no good, the brat. So anyway, it was indeed his father. Because I said, I don't know him. He goes, you know him. And so we went back and forth for a few minutes. And finally, he said, that's my dad. And I was like, oh my God. He was like 200 pounds heavier than he was when I knew him. So anyway, he gave me his father's email address, and me and him started communicating. And we communicated online until 2014. Yeah, July of 2014. Now, during that time online, he was wishy-washy. I mean, we would be cruising along, having a good time, one of the things that help you survive narcissism. But anyhow, so I thought he was a flake. I thought, what the hell? And he was still with the same wife that he was with when I was with him. And I thought, what a flake. And then I thought, well, maybe he's just discouraged because I live in Arizona now and he's still in Nevada. And so I moved back to Nevada. And I moved back for one of the sole reasons was to see if what he and I once had could be again. Now, at the time that he asked me the last time when I was 9 months pregnant to be with him, I told him, no, you go raise your kids. This one don't know you. And when they're all grown and raised, we'll get back together and finish what we started. Anyhow, yeah, stupid. Anyhow, I never had a clue back then that he was a narc. He never showed that side to me at all. He was very kind and loving and generous and just a total sweetheart. So Well, I came back to Vegas and we started dating again. At the time, his wife was living in California. He said she left him. Cool. So about 6 months into our dating, well, the first sign was there's this thing in Laughlin every year where you raft down the river. And a girlfriend of mine had invited me, and I told him I was going. Well, he got pissed off, and when I got back from the river, and I was only gone a weekend, but when I got back from the river, he broke up with me. Now, within a few days, he came back, and we got back together. But my first inkling that something was wrong was we had gone out every night for a week and to his gigs. He's a musician. And one night we went to a woman's shelter, and I got to meet a whole bunch of people who knew him. Well, one lady named Carol said, "Well, you're not that chubby." And I said, "Well, no, I'm not." And she goes, "Well, there's a heavy-set married woman, a blonde, who has been after him and who he's been seeing." Well, really? I had no clue, but I didn't say nothing. So he comes off the stage, and I'm telling you, it was so hot that night. Every musician on that stage, it was outside, was just drenched with sweat. So I knew he was due to get off in a few minutes, so I fetched him an ice water, and he come walking up, and his face is flushed, and he's sweating, and I looked up at him, and I simply said, "Are you okay?" And he pulls me aside, but in front of this place with 100 musicians and their wives and hundreds of homeless women, and proceeds to go off on me. I was horrified. I left and I went outside, and he came out and apologized and said everything was okay, and we went back in, so I left it. We go to leave that night, and as we're getting in his car, he says, "So what do you want to do?" Now, we had planned on going to a club, and I refer to this club as SNS. And I said, "Well, I still want to go to SNS. I've sat out in the sun, in the heat, for the last 3 hours. I think I deserve it." Oh my God. He went off. I never seen this side of this guy. He went off beating his steering wheel, calling me every name. I've never been called these names. But people were looking at the car. And at one point I turned and I said, "Who the fuck do you think you are talking to me like that?" So anyway, I broke up with him. I had him drop me at home, and I left. Well, a few days comes by, he comes back to me and he apologizes, said he didn't know what was up with him, that he was just a bad day. So I forgave him, but I kid you not, a day later, he did it again, sitting inside my own home. Now, during this 6 months period, I was really sick. I was actually being poisoned by the woman I was renting off of, and that's another whole story. But it was true. I really was. And he came by one night for sex. Let's just say it. And afterwards, I was so sick and I was crying. And we had made plans to go to Arizona Charlie's, a casino here in Nevada. And I cried. I said, "I'm so sick. Can't you just sit here with me? I can't go." He laughed at me, changed his clothes, and went. Well, I found out that he met the fat, blonde, married woman at Arizona Charlie's that night. And I don't know why he wanted to drag me along. But anyway, I left. I left the state, and I went to Georgia. And I was in Georgia a month when he called me and asked me to go back with him and to find a way home, because he never had any money. He still has no money. He's been promising money for 5 years to make up for the child support that he never gave me, ever. And so I knew that wasn't going to go through, because if you pull up him and his wife's name online, they've got all kinds of reports against them, and I don't know a millionaire in this world that will invest in somebody that's got that kind of trouble on the internet. But anyway, I finally found a way back, and we were talking on the phone, and he didn't know that I had been back for about 2 weeks. But and he had a gig. He had actually 3 gigs in a row, and he was playing at a place, a new band. And I told him, I said, after your first, he didn't know I was back in Nevada. I said, after your first gig, honey, all I want you to do is I am going to call you immediately. I want you to look down at your phone. Now, for one, he never put 2 and 2 together, wondering how I would know when he exactly came down off a stage, because a musician will never just do a set. They may throw in introductions, they may throw in a last song, a ton of things. He just never connected how I would know the minute he came off of stage and the ability to text him at that moment. Well, I got to this casino and I hid in the back and I watched, and to my dismay, I caught him with the fat, blonde, married woman. And indeed, as promised, the minute he came off stage, I texted him. I seen him look down at his phone, shake his head, and put that phone in his pocket, and walk right over to his fat, married girlfriend. So, let's rewind here real fast. A year goes by, I'm in Arizona, and we start talking again, and he promises me he's not with the fat married woman anymore. And so I move back to Vegas one more time. I'm only back, I kid you not, a week. Now, I paid for the move again. I'm only back 1 week when I find out he didn't break up with her. Not only that, he kept saying he was going to, but I came back the end of November, and by February 1st, he had given me 3 STDs. And blamed me. He did this up to December of this year. He would swear I caught him one time. The 3rd time he gave me an STD, I busted him. And at that time, and that was in May or June of 2016, and at that time, even with her on the phone, he swore up and down it was over. He told her to leave us alone. He told her not to even come out to his gigs, that if she did, he would leave. And you know what? She never showed up for a whole year. Well, last December, we had a fight. He went back to his mummy's house. That's where he always goes. He can't support himself. He never has. He lives off of people, as does his ex-wife, or current. They're still going through a divorce. But anyhow, so December comes, and we're split up. And for the first time in a year, I'm not going to a gig. Well, about 5 o'clock that evening, I get a letter through Facebook, and she had been doing this the whole time. She sent me a letter telling me that she was, again, still with him, and that she was going to suck his dick in the parking lot after the gig. I mean, the woman has no class, absolutely none. So anyhow, I had a really bad night that night, because for a year, almost a year, 6 months, I had been trusting that she wasn't there. And how in the world, if he didn't tell her, would she know after a year that I wasn't going to be there? Do you know, that night that I was in such horrible pain. Oh, my dog is driving me nuts. Come here, Fief. She just drive me crazy. I want to be in her mommy lap. That December night was one of the most horrific nights I had in my life emotionally. I have never dealt with so much pain. I have never dealt with so much hurt. Something happened that night. Something happened, because as all of you know, we take him back, and I don't know about the rest of you, but every time I took him back, putting everything behind us, like it was all brand new, believing every word he would tell me. Every word. I made it so comfortable for him. We never discussed the past issues, what he did, how bad it hurt. And if I did bring it up, all he would say was that I was crazy and jealous, and I needed to get over my jealousy. He always blamed my jealousy on me. And you know what? Like the rest of you, I know I was never a jealous person. Never. Now, if somebody gives me a reason to be jealous, oh, hell yeah. But this man, no. So, something happened that night. Well, a couple weeks later, he came back. I told him what happened. He begged to come back. I let him back. And, his ex-wife gave him an ultimatum. If you go back with her, I'm never going to talk to you again. And true to her word, she didn't. And she did start divorce proceedings. So, now they had been separated since 2013, but I was the reason. So anyhow, something died that night, ladies. And the reason I tell you this story is because, trust me, there will come a time, if you are like me, and you take them back again and again and again, hi baby, on promises, there's going to come a time when you won't tolerate no more name calling, because he never stopped. From the first time after us dating about 6 months, for the first time he quit calling me names was the very last time we broke up, and I told him straight out, it's over. Don't call me no names. It ain't gonna get you nowhere. It doesn't hurt no more. You just need to go. And so the name calling never stopped. And so when he came back, we were intimate. And I had been, when I caught him cheating in May or June of 2016, I caught him because he gave me another STD. I hadn't been with anybody. I haven't been with anybody but him since about early 2009. And so I knew he was the only person I could have got it from. But I was the one who had to go to the gynecologist. I was the one who had to tell my gynecologist that this man gave me an STD. My gynecologist looked at me after the third time and said, I don't know what you're thinking, but he's going to end up giving you AIDS or syphilis that you cannot get rid of, that I cannot help you. You've got to leave this guy. Well, so I got him and me cured of an STD in May or June of 2016. So when he comes back in December, he's got me convinced that this woman, he doesn't know how she found out, because at the time there were only 4 of us that knew that me and him were broke up. Me, him, his mother, and his ex-wife. But this woman emailed me. And so he had me convinced that he must have slipped and told somebody, or she was just pulling straws out of the air, even though he did have a gig that night and he did not contact me. He even had people who were there that night call me and tell me that he was a good boy and he hadn't done anything. But anyway, so twice I was intimate with him after that. And sure enough, I came down with the worst chlamydia of my sinuses than I have ever had in my life. It took me 9 weeks and 3 different antibiotics to get rid of it. It died. I think I was so sick, I had to sleep sitting up. I was so sick, and all he ever did was sit there and stare at me. He watched me be sick. He watched me wake up in the middle of the night not being able to breathe. He took me to the hospital. I was so miserable, and he never once showed enough love to say, you know what, I did sleep with her, let's go get you fixed. So, this dog is driving me nuts today. She knows when I get emotionally upset. Huh, sissy? Her knows when mommy gets upset. So anyhow, during that 9 weeks, every time I look at him, he made me sick. But I thought, you know, he finally straightened up, you know. Don't get rid of him now. And so the months go by, and I learned the real Elliot. Now, we had lived together pretty much for a year. You know, he spent every night, unless he was leaving me for his ex-wife. That happened 5 times after he swore off the fat, nasty married woman. But I didn't believe he had cheated on me again. But I think during that 9 weeks, with the severe SPTD that I had gotten from that Friday night, I was actually put on antidepressants and anxiety medicines over that night. I think during that time, something inside of me just closed down. I couldn't kiss him. I was afraid to. I swear to God, I was afraid to kiss this guy. A fear that one of the times that he was out and about, he cheated on me, because they used to meet to eat, and then she would give him blowjobs in parking lot. I'm telling you, this girl had no class. She has no class. But anyhow, I was afraid to kiss him. I was afraid to let him touch me. I didn't want him drinking off my glasses. Speaking of glasses, I'm thirsty. And so what I want you to know, what my whole video is about, is I had to have taken him back 100 times. I am not exaggerating. This guy cycled once a week. Once a week, he would pick a fight so he could go sleep with that fat bitch and then come back to me. He did this every day for 2 to 3 years. So I had to have taken him back, and I kid you not, at least 100 times. And every time, like I said, I wouldn't bring up the past. I wouldn't do nothing. Was I secure? Hell no. Did I know he was still doing it? Oh yeah. I'm empathic. Not only am I an empath, I'm a Pisces. I read body language like I read words. And so, I'm okay, baby. Mommy, okay? It's okay. So anyhow, she's an emotional service animal, and so that's why she's in my lap. But anyhow, I'm okay. She can feel the anxiety. So anyhow, he sleeping in the same bed. I couldn't stand him touching me. I couldn't stand it. I suddenly didn't care if he went to his mom's without me. I suddenly didn't care if he wouldn't answer his phone. I suddenly didn't care. So I want you guys all to know that whether you're one of those who walk away after the first time, or you're like me and it takes hundreds of times, because if you're empath, you love very hard and very deep. You always see the good in others, and you always just know they're going to change. And all you really want back is that knight in shining armor who treated you so good that you just want them to come back. Well, that never happened. I'm telling you, there will come a day, trust me, that you won't care anymore. If you're one of those people who were like me, too weak to stay no contact, I fell for every text message that said, how do I do this? How are you doing? Where's this? Did you see that? Any text message that this guy could use to open the door to communication, he knew if he got me to answer it, he had me. He knew that. It was true. I couldn't even deny it myself. And I was always strong for a week or two. But if he texted me after that, the anger went away, the empath came out, the Pisces came out. I don't want drama, I just want peace in my life. You have got to get down, sissy. I didn't want drama, I just wanted peace in my life. And I would take him back. I'm here to tell you that the day I asked him to leave my house, he still had never paid rent. Ever. He had nerve to say he was taking some of the stuff he bought for this house in lien of rent. Because I told him, okay, fine, you can't afford rent. You put stuff up in the house that I need. And this man thought he was going to take that stuff. I informed him, no, you ain't. I've been paying out 3/4 of my money every month to support your fat ass. You're going to just leave with what you came with. And I meant it. I also told him the last time, there's not going to be no arguing, no name calling, because I don't love you anymore. And ladies and gentlemen, I meant it. For the first time, being on his roller coaster of hurt and pain and deception, I said it with a smile on my face, because I meant it. It had gotten so bad that I wouldn't let him touch me. I wouldn't let him kiss me. And I can remember one day I gave him a taste of something I was drinking, and I fell immediately into a panic. I even got antibiotics just in case. But I'm happy. You know, it's only been about 5 or 6 weeks, but I have no desire to be back with him. You know, I think about it, I gotta say honestly, I'll think about him once in a while, and I don't get love or hurt. I get angry. I get angry because he will never stop lying. He will never stop cheating. He will never stop looking for one supply after another. And I'm going to tell you that if you go no contact, don't ever open that door until you are in a position that I am in, where you know that there is absolutely no way in hell he will ever get in your heart again. Now, some of my concerns, this little dog is just so, hold on you guys. Fifi, I'm okay, honey, get down. She's driving me crazy. She's over on the other side now. Anyhow, and I don't want any of you. I used to feel so guilty when I would be on here trying to get support and trying to find ways to survive and cope with it, or talking to my friends on the support channels on Facebook. I would feel so guilty every time I took him back. I even had you guys believing that it wasn't my narc and it was a boyfriend. That's the narc. and you know, it's funny. He wanted to infiltrate. Is that the word? He wanted to be on YouTube so that he could get his feet in on my subscribers. And of course, a man or two that would hit on me, and he would demand that I take the comment down and block the guy. And that happened every time. And so he had me, after we got back together in December of this last year, he had me open up my YouTube channel and introduce him to prove that I wasn't having an affair. You know, I sometimes look back at the gullibility of myself, and I allowed it, because I'm not a gullible person by nature. I'm an old biker. The last thing I do is trust folks. Just saying. But I want you to know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. There will come a day when you will be able to walk away. Now, I'm not saying you're going to be a whole person immediately at all. It's going to take time, and it's going to take work. You're going to wonder for the first week, what am I going to do with myself? You might go through a minute of depression or loneliness. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to start putting stuff on my YouTube channel on the feelings that I had and have since I have made him leave and meant it. He'll never grace my doorstep as a lover. He will never touch me again. And to tell you guys the truth, I'm so strong that I'll never be with this guy again, that I could be his friend. He's the one that can't handle it. And you know what? You just look over and you go, wow. Wow. Now, I'm going to be talking about dating. I'm going to be talking about getting back out in the workforce, out in life. I'm going to talk and touch about a lot of subjects on what life is like after the narcissist. And I'm going to tell you one of the things right now that I haven't had in forever is a full night's sleep. Because whether we were getting along good or we were fighting, this man made sure I never got a full night's rest. He made sure that I was awake 3, 4, 5 times a night. I never got into Zen sleep. Ever. So you're talking about sleep deprivation for about 4 years. Because even when I was in Arizona, he would keep me up all night long. Or call after I fell asleep. Absolutely. So, the one thing that they keep us mentally weak is by sleep deprivation. And I don't have to tell you all about that. You've all experienced it. So I really like being on YouTube. I love the correspondence and interacting with everybody and hearing your life views and hearing how life is treating you and how you're doing and getting along and answering questions. I love you all with all my heart. And I'm so happy. I'm so proud to be able to say to each and every one of you who has suffered or is suffering at the hand of a narcissist, there is life after them. There will come a day when you'll be able to walk away and mean it. I mean that. I'm living proof. You know, I was so sick that I convinced myself that this guy wasn't a narcissist. And you know, I have to tell you that just this morning, I was reading an article on the traits of narcissism. He hit 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10. And maybe the 10th one was grandeur stories and lies about your life. And he can't lie to me about that. I know his life. But 9 out of 10, ladies. So I had totally convinced myself. He convinced me because I told him he was a narcissist. He had totally convinced me that he wasn't a narcissist. But in all actuality, he's a devil. I have never met him. My mother was narcissistic. I have a daughter who is narcissistic. I have never in my life met a worse narcissist. Ever. And you know, like the rest of you and like the women on my support groups, I pray that the day will come when I see him get his just rewards for what he has given to me and others. I used to blame his wife, his ex-wife. Not anymore. I know why she did it. So anyway, I just wanted to give you guys this back bio, let you know where I'm at right now, and at least once a week I want to come on here and talk about one area and how I got through it and how I changed that area to get back to the human, to person, the loving, kind, positive woman that I was before he walked back in my life. Because she comes back every day. Every day, the Tammy that once was, before he came back in my world, comes back. You are all in my prayers. You're in my thoughts and my dreams. And I have to say that my little Fifi, my little poodle, who's been driving me crazy online here because that's her job, one of the best things you can do if you don't have children is to go out and get yourself an animal. Go get a dog or a cat that you can love unconditionally. Because we have to learn to love again. As sad as that is true. We have to learn to be patient and understanding. We have to learn to give ourselves completely. And we have to learn to make a commitment. So my suggestion to each and every one of you out there from the bottom of my heart is to go get an animal. Learn how to love again. Peace.